On this edition of Bay Area Bountiful, we follow environmentalists hot on the trail of our local animal residents to better understand their movements and ways to protect them. First, we'll learn about the preservation work of the North Coyote Valley Preserve in San Jose. Then we'll follow a group of citizen scientists as they attempt to reintroduce an endangered species of butterfly to its original Peninsula home. And we'll tag along with the wildlife spotters of the River Otter Ecology Project in Marin. It's all coming up next on Bay Area Bountiful.
Bay Area Bountiful is made possible in part by Rocky the free-range chicken and Rosie the original organic chicken. The Sonoma County Agricultural Preservation and Open Space District, Made Local Magazine, and Sonoma County Go Local, and through the generous support of Sonoma Water. Cultivate, celebrate, connect.
At the southernmost part of the city of San Jose, North Coyote Valley is a conservation and urban planning success story. It is one of the last underdeveloped valley floors in the entire Bay region and is the final vestige of Santa Clara County's Valley of Heart's Delight. After decades of threatened development that almost became reality, protecting its fertile agricultural lands and crucial wildlife corridors has become the goal of a unique partnership of governmental and nonprofit entities that serves as a conservation model of national significance. The wetlands here are an invaluable asset for flood control resulting from climate change, and close observation shows that preserving the wetlands maintains a critical connection for animals traveling between vast natural habitats. After decades of controversy and dispute, land stewards who have spent years studying water and wildlife movement in southern San Jose recently leveraged all their hard work and made the North Coyote Valley Conservation Area a reality.
So what makes the Coyote Valley so special? It is probably one of the last remaining valley floors in the San Francisco Bay Area that's undeveloped. And for many, many years, it's been an agricultural landscape, and before that, an indigenous peoples landscape. But one thing we've discovered over the years of our research, it's the last chance landscape. It's the last place for wildlife to move between the two mountain ranges of the Santa Cruz Mountains and the Diablo or Mount Hamilton Range. So this valley floor is the last flat linkage or corridor that connects over 1.5 million acres of habitat in the two mountain ranges. Coyote Valley is really a magical place. It's a treasure for the San Francisco Bay region. And until the last several years, relatively unknown to the public. It's a large extent of flat agricultural land, which has a carpet of green during the winter months, wildflowers, standing water, birds migrating along the Pacific Flyway. And if you're lucky, you'll catch a glimpse of a bobcat or a coyote, maybe an American badger, and sometimes now even a mountain lion. But this is a relatively still wild landscape in an urban matrix. It is right on the urban edge. In fact, it defines the area of urbanization that is the city of San Jose. And through its preservation now, we have a protected green belt on the southern boundary of San Jose, the 10th largest city in the United States. And it's a miracle that it's still there.
Key to working this miracle has been the Santa Clara Valley Open Space Authority.
The Open Space Authority is a public land conservation agency and independent special district created by the legislature and supported by the voters back in 1993. So we've been around for 26 years. We're in the business of protecting open space, natural resources, wildlife habitat, and agricultural land for future generations all across Santa Clara County.
As we'll see, the Open Space Authority closely monitors how wildlife uses landscapes and how landscapes react when climate change causes massive impacts on watersheds.
The Coyote Valley in many ways is a model conservation partnership and a model conservation project. Coyote Valley's valley floor has the last remaining floodplains that have been undeveloped, 2,500 acres upstream of the city of San Jose. And after 40 years of threat and many attempts to protect it, what really made the difference in this partnership was the city of San Jose wanting to recognize the Coyote Valley as natural infrastructure, using nature and open landscapes to slow, store, spread water and keep it from flooding downtown areas.
In addition to recharging aquifers to ensure drinking water supply, the wetlands help protect nearby urban zones against flooding. So even more effective than man-made measures, Coyote Valley is considered natural infrastructure. Cities ignore preserving these areas at their peril. A number of circumstances coincided recently that resulted in catastrophic flooding, again in downtown San Jose. The impact to homes and businesses was both extensive and expensive. Residents' lives were severely impacted. Though rising creeks in the winter will always be a fact here, now it is clear that leaving upstream areas in their natural state has very real benefits.
And so the city of San Jose put a measure on the ballot. That measure passed. And in November of 2019, a very fruitful partnership delivered on the protection of almost 1,000 acres in the North Coyote Valley between the Santa Clara Valley Open Space Authority, the Peninsula Open Space Trust, and the city of San Jose.
The North Coyote Valley Conservation Area newly acquired 1,000 acres of valley floor, North Coyote Valley. An excellent example of our work at its best. We call this a last chance landscape because of the future that was plotted for this roughly 1,000 acres for well over 40 years. For many years it was intended as a corporate campus, which is common here in the Silicon Valley. But we've been able to grab the reins with really innovative partners, the City of San Jose, Peninsula Open Space Trust, and create a moment where this landscape now has a different future. One that hopefully serves all of us, provides opportunities for recreation, education, connection to your natural landscape. And we want to be able to use this land to serve the public, both in utilitarian ways of resilience to extreme weather, as well as a chance to develop a better relationship with where we all live and can appreciate.
So the significance of North Coyote Valley Conservation Area is that it is the closest point at which the Diablo Range and the Santa Cruz Range come together. So you have animals that are isolated on the Santa Cruz Mountains, and it's really important to have a way for them to get to the Diablo Range. Otherwise, they become genetically isolated, and that makes them more vulnerable to climate change and to other challenges that they may face. The animals that would be making this journey include the mountain lion, the bobcat, the coyote, and their badger friends.
So recently, the public around the United States and even around the world were tickled to see a short video that went viral of a coyote and a badger seemingly becoming fast friends and following each other through a culvert, probably on their way to help each other find their next meal. And this really drove home how wildlife moves through an urban landscape. The video clip was actually filmed in the Santa Cruz Mountains, which is the border with Coyote Valley. There is wildlife out on these landscapes. They need to move from place to place for survival, from a patch of habitat to another patch of habitat. And oftentimes those large patches are separated or cut off by roads. So we go about our business of mapping where wildlife moves and where they need to roam. We look at wildlife cameras, we look at where wildlife is being hit by cars, and we soon develop a pattern of where wildlife needs to go and the amount of habitat they need. And then we set about strategic conservation, acquisition, restoration to protect those essential wildlife corridors. So if we had to design a wildlife bridge over Monterey Highway, what are some of the feasible locations?
The Open Space Authority plays an important role in creating and maintaining the connective wildlife corridors their research has proven are crucial.
Of course, Silicon Valley replaced Santa Clara Valley, and the Coyote Valley is one of the last vestiges of the so-called Valley of the Heart's Delight. So keeping agriculture viable has many benefits to growing populations into our cities. They keep those lands from being converted to development and urban sprawl, which produces greenhouse gas emissions. We have hopefully locally grown produce. And in fact, this valley actually produces 30% of the crop value for the entire Santa Clara County, which at one time was one of the top producing agricultural counties in the nation.
Our goal is to protect working lands and agriculture, to connect people to nature and conserve natural areas. The Open Space Authority has a vibrant volunteer program. For example, today we're here for a land steward event.
For an event like this, we do ask that, people have their boots and their gung-ho attitude. Today we are restoring part of the floodplain, and we are removing an invasive species, poison hemlock, from that floodplain so that native plants can grow and flourish and also help sustain the native animal populations.
Feels good. Literally, it feels good. You're getting outside, you're helping your community, but yeah, I just enjoy it. Yeah. I know a lot of people are like, that's like you're working. I'm like, yeah, but it feels good.
We want to restore this landscape to native habitat, so then the birds, the animals, the pollinators can come back and help sustain this ecosystem that we're trying to build back up.
We can make a difference today that when we leave, this landscape will be improved.
Volunteers, they'll drive past this field right behind me, and they'll see flowers start to come back, they'll see native plants start to come back, and they'll say, I had a hand in that, a literal hand in that. So it's great.
The acquisition and preservation of land is really only the beginning of a lifelong stewardship process. We have the opportunity now to create an unparalleled landscape for wildlife and people. And so our job ahead is to plan the future uses of Coyote Valley, to raise the significant public and private funding to bring the conservation vision and the restoration vision of this magical place to life.
When human activity destroys parts of the environment that plants and animals depend on, we don't have to accept it. We can do something about it. That's what Dr. Stuart Weiss and his Creekside Center for Earth Observation believe with a passion. He has been working for many years to find out what caused the disappearance of the beautiful bay checkerspot butterfly from Edgewood Park in Redwood City. Relying heavily on citizen scientist volunteers known as the checker spotters, the data they've collected after many seasons of reintroductions provides a template of best practices for continuing restoration efforts both here and all around the San Francisco Bay Area. Just south of San Jose are the steep hillsides of Coyote Ridge. This stunning landscape is home to a very special creature, the endangered bay checkerspot butterfly. For years, conservation biologist Stuart Weiss and his team have been working to rebuild a neighboring population of checkerspots, which has mysteriously disappeared, by transporting the caterpillars from here to Edgewood Preserve in Redwood City, 35 miles away.
Because there's really no way you could depend on a butterfly flying across Silicon Valley and finding this little 40-acre area here at Edgewood and repopulating it. We decided we would bring the butterfly back. We drop them off, and then we waited for the butterflies to show up.
Reintroducing neighbor caterpillars is one thing. Figuring out the puzzle of why the original checker spot population disappeared is quite another. Stu leads tours to explain how he figured out why the natives were gone.
So the bay checker spot butterfly was known at Edgewood Park up until the year 2002. We witnessed this precipitous crash of the butterfly population, and it was extinct by 2002 and 2003. Now there's one plant out here that is the key. It's the most important plant in the world, at least the bay checker spot's world. This is called dwarf plantain or Plantago erecta. And this is the only thing that caterpillars will eat for most of the time they're active. I came out in 1997, and I estimated there were about 9,000 caterpillars. Populations go up and down. Each successive year it went down by about a factor of 5. Until 2002, it was gone. In conjunction with that, I noticed that the habitat was getting grassed over. Nutrient-poor soil was getting really grassed over. And we managed to untangle what had happened, that the traffic on Highway 280 is emitting gas, which allows plants that love high nutrients and love nitrogen to basically take over. And that smothers out all the little wildflowers that the bay checker spot butterfly uses as caterpillar food. And it turns out about 80% of the habitat out here got really degraded. The loss of the butterfly got people alarmed, and we found that a well-timed mow did wonders for the habitat. Break up the thatch, and the following year you get this incredible display of wildflowers.
Coming up with a solution to address auto exhaust destroying native habitat was a groundbreaking achievement that drew the attention of the scientific community. Now, with the native wildflower presence rebounding at the preserve, a sustainable checker spot butterfly population that depended on it seemed closer than ever. A large media event was organized to celebrate the breakthrough.
And when we did it the first time, we were so happy. We had this big event with the press, and we were in all the TV news that evening, and we dominated the news cycle. So everybody wants to come by and see a butterfly close up. Walk around and notice what's on. These guys we brought them up so people could actually see the butterfly today. Feel-good day, except it didn't work the first time.
Despite a monumental effort, few checker spots returned the next year. But rather than give up, Stu and everyone helping him rolled up their sleeves and started again.
We got a new permit. All this work has to be done under permit from the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. Lots of Plantago in these areas, and they'll find their way to the Plantago and disperse. Oh, look at you. Oh, you are released.
I put one down and I watched it. It went straight to the plantain, crawled right up it and started munching on it. You wouldn't have thought a caterpillar could be cute.
We set up a monitoring system that became eventually known as the checker spotters. Volunteers counting checker spots.
In fact, here's our first subject right here. I'm going to give it a 1, 2. I'm a checker spotter. We measure the checker spots, trying to keep them from going extinct. 55 so far.
And we had somebody out there every day over the course of the season so we could really track the butterfly population. When did you start seeing them? How many did you see? Where did you see them in the habitat?
And we walk the transect and we count. And we have it do it in a calibrated way, so we go 90 seconds per transect, 35 of them that we walk, and we count, and we send the data to the scientists who crunch the numbers.
Because it's a threatened species, you have to document everything very, very carefully. And the science is a necessary condition But you also need the passion and just the love for a place like Edgewood, as represented by the butterfly, to make it work.
Data collected by the checker spotters show that though the butterfly population at Edgewood grew into the thousands at one point since the restoration project started, it has dwindled again to the low hundreds. Climate change may be a factor, and freeway traffic with its invasive fertilizing exhaust continues. Mowing non-native grasses is ongoing, and one more reintroduction attempt is planned. But even if the butterflies never reestablish on their own, valuable lessons learned here are already being applied to similar revitalization efforts elsewhere.
If we pay attention and we care enough about a place, we're not helpless in the face of local extinctions. We can do something about it.
Dedicated staff, volunteers, and citizen scientists of the River Otter Ecology Project work tirelessly to research the return of the cute and charismatic river otter to Northern California. For a time, river otters were thought to have fled the San Francisco Bay region, but long-term research proves that they are back, likely as a result of conservation efforts to decrease pollution and improve water quality. We see the playful critters smiling for their camera trap close-ups as we learn more about them every day. All through the quiet backwaters of the North Bay, intrepid investigators pursue an elusive quarry.
The later in the afternoon it gets, the more likely we are to see them because they need to come out and hunt before it gets too dark. We look for ripples on the water and bubbles. You can track them by following their bubbles.
They seek any trace of wildlife that is stealthy, agile, and unbelievably cute. River otters. They are the River Otter Ecology Project.
We started our project because we had discovered that river otters had been making a surprising recovery. We set motion detector cameras out in remote areas where we know otters are going. In the wild, when they're alone, when they don't know they're on camera, I see them play. Even full adults will play together and wrestle. We have lots of videos of an adult river otter with her 4 giant pups all playing together like crazy kids on the riverbank. They're very playful. They're very intelligent, very, very adaptable. So river otter really is a misnomer because otters love all water. River otters like freshwater, saltwater, and brackish water, drainage ditches, swimming pools, koi ponds especially. River otters had been extirpated from most of the Bay Area as of at least the 1950s or 60s, and that means that they were no longer there. And we're not quite sure why they were not there. We think it had something to do with materials in the waters, and we think it might have had something to do also with trapping for fur, which was banned in 1962 in California. Since that time, we think they've been coming back, and no one really realized that they were until we started seeing more and more of them in our waterways. About once a week, our site volunteers will go out to a camera site and they collect the chip out of the camera. They take that chip home, put it in their computer, and go through up to 400 one-minute videos.
Also helping with camera traps are students in River Otter Ecology Project's hands-on high school education program. Study is done in the lab and in the field where youth make observations, collect data, and see how research is conducted. Many have never explored the outdoors, and few have ever seen an otter. The takeaway message? We're all part of the web of nature. Each of us can make a difference, and science is fun.
Okay, I'm gonna stay out of that because I can't tell if I'm gonna end up in the lagoon. Scat is, in short, otter poop.
Another key to unlocking the story of otters is to locate, document, and study their scat. Volunteers go to great lengths to collect it because of the wealth of valuable information it contains.
We collect scat to do genetic analysis, to discover whether the population is increasing or decreasing and where river otters are going, their range.
But I saw them scatting, and so I know it's really fresh, which makes me really, really want it.
And we'd also like to find out some basic health issues that are going on with them.
It's really important that we label all of the scat and all of the bags so we know when it was collected, the exact location, and there's a form that I fill out when I go home that will say exactly what numbered scat belongs to which location. So we get excited about really weird things.
I think the fact that we're seeing them around the Bay Area in all kinds of places where you really wouldn't expect to see such a wild and elusive animal tells us that they're able to adapt pretty well to living around big cities like San Francisco and Berkeley and Oakland and Richmond.
Over 8 years, 3,600 otter sightings have been submitted to the River Otter Ecology Project website, prompting the California Department of Fish and Wildlife to change its official map, adding 4,100 square miles to what was previously considered the River Otter's range, an astonishing conservation success story.
River otters are really perfect ambassadors for conservation of watersheds. We often say that healthy watersheds make healthy ottersheds. They require reasonably clean water and plenty of healthy fish in order to do well and be seen and thrive the way we're seeing them thrive. The fact that they're here gives us a good idea that something is actually going right in our watersheds. It's a message of hope for us.
To support River Otter Ecology Project, visit www.riverotterecology.org. Collecting information about the movement and habits of wildlife greatly aids in their preservation. Much care is taken in the process, and the work done will help them thrive for generations to come.